Unbelievable. That was my initial reaction upon seeing Zebec recently releasing some numbers. I'm not joking. I'll show it on the screen. And it's actually about how much Zebec they have reacquired so far, which I think tells a pretty compelling story. And I'll give my rationale about this and talk about why I think this could impact Zebec moving forward. Even though the price conditions aren't the best, I'm still going to talk about this nonetheless, and I'll talk about the price a little bit later. But I first want to clarify, I am not telling anyone to do anything. It's just my perspective, and nothing I say is financial advice. So Zebec recently, again, released the numbers. They've said that so far, right, they've acquired around approximately $500 million Zebec. Not in terms of the dollars, by the way. That's in terms of like actual Zebec in terms of the tokens. To be a little bit more specific, they said they reacquired over 504.7 million. So just, again, approximately $500 million, or over that, I should say. And also on top of that, they say that so far, as of right now, around 16.2 billion of Zebec is being locked up. That's pretty impressive. Now, again, that's not in terms of the dollar amount. That's in terms of like the actual Zebec in terms of the token. Now, let's talk about how much they reacquired, right? Because a lot of people seem to think it was a myth for whatever reason. They thought that Zebec was never reacquiring the token at all. That's actually not true, and they even confirmed it. And here's the thing. If we take a look at this, people like to say, well, okay, how much is around $500 million Zebec even worth as of right now? Now, given current prices, it's somewhere around 930 grand, so almost $1 million. Now, of course, people are going to say, well, that's not that impressive. Given the current market cap being at around 180 million, that's not even 1% of the market cap. Like, who cares? But that's progress, though. Like, okay, I get it. It's not the best. But we have to think about this. Not many projects out there of this size can even pull that off anyways. So even seeing that is like, I guess, victory nonetheless, in a sense. Not the most impressive thing, comparatively speaking, but relatively speaking, it's pretty impressive. Everything's relative, right? I mean, it can be massive for one project and it can be not so massive for another one. It really depends. But for a project of Zebec's archetype, like again, being ranked 125th as of right now in terms of market cap within this space, it's not that bad, at least from what I can see. And I think it's a pretty amazing victory, and I think it showcases that they've been doing things behind the scenes. Because keep in mind, to reacquire this Zebec, they're actually using literal revenue from their products and services or whatever, and actually using it to reacquire Zebec, right? So we got to think about that. And keep in mind, this Zebec that they're reacquiring, it's currently being held in like a treasury, and also I think some with Uphold Institutional. So it's actually being kept. Now, there's going to be a vote later on this year, allegedly, to decide what they're going to do exactly with that. Is it going to be burned, all of it, 100%? I have no idea, but there's going to be a vote as to what they're going to do with that later on. But nonetheless, even if they never burn all of it, it's not too bad given how it's currently being held anyways, right? It's being taken out of hypothetical circulation, I suppose, if I would even like to say that, right? So what that does is that it's going to create this awesome, or has already created, I should say, this pretty, I guess, slight but awesome deflationary pressure. And it's only going to just snowball moving forward, because if the Zebec products and services continue to get more and more revenue for whatever reason, what's going to happen is that they're going to have more to actually reacquire Zebec. So again, this could have profound long-term impacts. That's the thing. Now, let's keep in mind, with this all being said, people like to tell me, well, no one really cares about this for the long term. Now, need I remind people, just like I mentioned earlier on in this video, there's around 16 billion Zebec that is currently being locked up. And I don't think that's too bad, especially if I consider how the maximum supply when it comes to Zebec is 100 billion. So approximately, 16% of the maximum supply is currently being locked up. Now, will people lock things up, like in the case of this, right? Will they do that if they don't have a long-term conviction? I don't think so, because usually people won't want to lock things up when it comes to this space if they don't think about it for the long term. So we just got to let that sink in. Around 16% of the maximum supply is currently being locked up. I don't think that's so bad. Keep in mind, Zebec has been increasing in terms of the amount of holders. I'm not joking. Take a look back like earlier this year, what was it, around 90,000? Now there's around 110,000 in terms of the amount of holders. So yes, there's people leaving, but there's also people entering. And it seems like more are entering than leaving, surprisingly, even in 2026, even though the market isn't doing the best. Again, why is there more people entering than leaving when it comes to Zebec? I think it's largely due to a couple of factors. Like, for instance, I think the Ripple and Stellar partnership played a big impact when it comes to that. And I also think the release of the Super App, both the mobile version and as well as the desktop version, I think that also made a big impact. Because arguably, Zebec has had the biggest year fundamentally for it in 2026, in my opinion. Case in point, the Stellar and Ripple partnership was kind of the game set match type of moment, right? Where it kind of just sealed the deal basically and made Zebec, I guess, surpass all the years previous in terms of, actually improving fundamentally. 2026, I think by far was the best year for it in terms of improving. Now, with that being said though, people are going to default to saying, but why aren't the price charts being affected? Well, this space doesn't operate like other markets out there in a sense where if Zebec had such a fantastic partnership, or partnerships, I should say plural, which it did this year, even despite that, it's not really going to do much to the price charts if the market isn't doing the best. So this space just functions kind of that way, at least historically and even right now. But it doesn't mean that it won't really matter later on. It's like, for instance, let's say I buy snorkeling equipment for whatever reason. I used to snorkel a lot back then, but not anymore. But I'm saying, assuming that, right? I mean, am I going to snorkel every day? No, but in the days that I do want to, it's going to become useful. So when it comes to this space, it's a little bit no different, in my opinion. Like a project that can improve a lot. It won't really matter right now or when the market isn't doing the best, but it's eventually going to hypothetically matter later on. And things could take quite a while. It's like Odysseus in the movie The Odyssey, in case someone has watched it. The journey took quite a while, right? So when it comes to this space, it's kind of no different. Zebec, as of right now, kind of reminds me of Odysseus, when he was kind of traveling and also kind of being lost here and there. And also at times he was kind of like, I guess, not knowing how to go back home. But you know what? Spoiler alert, right? He ended up reaching back home, but I'm just saying, all the lessons he learned along the way, it kind of made a big impact, right? So when it comes to Zebec, again, what they're doing as of right now, fundamentally, it may not be considered too impressive, but it could matter later on. And if I take a look at it, being at a market cap of around 180 million, we're taking a look at a project here that is approximately 3 times away from its peak last year. Now, people could say, isn't that such a bad thing? Well, not necessarily, because I'm looking at the dollar cost average. So if whatever I'm dollar cost averaging right now and it returns back to its peak last year, which was like around a 540 million market cap, at that point, I really have nothing to complain about, just because the journey would be a little bit epic, actually, if it could go back there from where it is as of right now. There is no telling if it could go back there, but I'm just saying, if it did, I'd be pretty happy, I suppose. But here's the thing. Now, could things go lower? I have no idea. Maybe. But it doesn't change the fact that we're still 3 times away approximately from the peak last year. So even if Zebec were to go lower than right now, we're still around 3 times away than the peak last year. So okay, sure, maybe a dollar cost average here and it goes a little bit lower. Doesn't change the fact that I'm still dollar cost averaging at a level that is around 3 times lower than its peak last year, as of right now. Personally, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. It's just my mindset. I'm only dollar cost averaging around once a month anyways, but I'm just saying, when I take a look at the context of how low Zebec is, and because I don't mind waiting for years anyways, I just don't really see a reason for me to give up, personally, as of right now. But, it's going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis. I can't speak on anyone's behalf. However, as of right now, seeing Zebec release those figures and those statistics recently in terms of showcasing how much Zebec they've reacquired so far, and also furthermore how much Zebec is currently being locked up, I just thought it was quite legendary, and naturally I wanted to make a video on it. Now, in case someone has been wondering why haven't I been making too much Zebec videos as of late, it's just because they haven't been updating much, and then also talking about the price is not going to really lead to anywhere to a large extent, just because there isn't really much going on there. So if there wasn't too many updates going on, and then also if there's not too much going on when it comes to the price charts, there wasn't really much for me to talk about. But of course, naturally, when they made an update, which was pretty significant, of course I wanted to talk about it. And you know what? I'm talking about it as of right now. But you know what? If there are any more updates, I'll be sure to make a video on, those updates, right? So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I'm still documenting my journey along the way, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for future upcoming videos. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very great and wonderful day.